This episode is for the writer who is writing, has a big chunk of a manuscript even, but isn't sure about when to enlist the help of an editor. I've worked with a lot of writers who have had negative or lackluster experiences with editors before, and my intention in this episode is to empower you to choose the right editor at the right time with the right manuscript. Let's get started. You are listening to the Memoir Method podcast, the place for writers, readers, and anyone who appreciates the collective power of our stories. In this podcast, we explore the impact of memoir alongside an examination of writing techniques and strategies used in the genre. Whether you are a writer looking for inspiration and guidance or a passionate reader seeking meaningful connections through shared experiences, the Memoir Method podcast is your go-to conversation spot. I'm your host, Charlotte, editor, writer, and the heart behind Charlotte Writes. Let's get started. Let's go into what happens when you work with an editor at the wrong time. And I admit, finding an editor as an independent author can feel a lot like dating. You put yourself out there over and over, hoping that you're going to click with someone. And sometimes it's not a good fit. Sometimes you get burned. Sometimes it's really bad, but it can get a little discouraging. Finding the right editor at the right time can feel like trying to predict where lightning will strike. So choosing the right editor is just as important as investing at the right time. There's a lot that your brain is juggling. There's a lot that your emotions are working through when you are looking to invest in an editor. The two big problems that I see writers encounter when they jump into editing at the wrong time are, first, they ask for the wrong level of editing. I will give you a super brief overview of the different levels of editing because there's different types. Most writers come to me saying that they want a line edit. That is what most writers think of. It's probably what you think of when you think of an editor, someone who goes through your work and refines it, revises it, redlines it. That's what people think of. That's usually a line edit. And they'll come to me saying that they want that when they actually need a developmental edit. So developmental editing is at the top. That's kind of the first step that you need. That is the big picture, zoom out type of structural editing. And then you have line edits where we tighten, work on phrases and word choice. And sometimes we even move pieces around in the manuscript. That's line editing. Then there's copy editing, grammar, punctuation, usage, and proofreading, which is where you're looking for mistakes. So that's a quick editing level overview. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see happen is that writers bring a manuscript that is not ready for the type of editor that they found. Second, they come into the process looking for the editor to save them. There's like a save me energy happening. And yes, editors are tools for you as a writer. And especially when you are the one paying, sometimes you forget that you are the boss. I have to remind my writers of this sometimes, like, hey, you're the boss. You get to decide. I'm here to support, to elevate, to guide, to bring my expertise and insights into your work. That is the most valuable part of working with an editor at that developmental or line edit stage is you get this expertise that you don't have. You get that professional skill set that you don't have. And when you can come into this collaboratively instead of save me, the dynamics stay in a place that is really fun and creative for both sides, for me and for you. You will have writers who say, fix this, make it pretty, make this sellable. And when you go into the process with that mindset, looking for someone to save you, not trusting your own intuition. And again, there's a balance between trusting someone's professional experience and also still taking yourself seriously as the writer, as the author, as the boss, as someone who's paying someone for a service. But what happens is that you might have a negative experience with an editor. Often, I am not the first editor that writers work with. I'm not the first one that they find. I am the editor that authors find when they're looking for a fresh experience with publishing professionals. And I didn't even intend to attract those writers. That was not ever part of my marketing plan, but that is what has happened. I work with a lot of writers who have had negative experiences before. And so they'll say, my last editor didn't get what I was trying to say. I felt completely misunderstood. I really don't like how they are interacting with me or how they're talking to me, or I did not have a good experience, or she gave great feedback, but I don't really know what to do with it. Like they just kind of left me hanging. And so when you're in a fix-it headspace, when you're looking for an editor, you're more likely to perhaps settle for an editor who isn't a good fit for you, who isn't a good fit for your process and your story. And I'll say I might not be a good fit for you. I know that I'm not going to be the perfect fit for every writer, but I am the perfect fit for the writers who know exactly what they're looking for. And I want you to figure out what it is that you need. What kind of relationship do you want with your editor? I'm a very collaborative editor. I love to work with you. I love to get inside of your story, inside of your head, learn your voice, and collaborate with you to produce a manuscript that is ready to publish. When you go into that save me space, when you are hiring someone, you lose your discernment as an author to find the editor who will be the best fit. So how do you know if you're ready for an editor? It's actually very simple. When you hit that point where you think, I don't even know what I don't know. I worked with a writer for a little bit who that's exactly what he said to me. I don't know what I don't know. That's when you're ready to hire an editor. When you have done a lot of work on your end to work on your manuscript, to refine your craft, that is the best place to reach out to an editor when you have invested and proven to yourself that this is something that you care about and that you want to do. And you are going to hit a point where you don't know what you don't know. And what I mean by that is you will know that there are blind spots, but you will have no idea what they are because you need that professional insight. You need that professional experience. And so this usually happens when you are finished drafting at least 1 or 2 rounds of a draft. It's probably not going to be your very first draft. It's probably going to be your 3rd, 4th, 5th even. You've maybe studied the craft of writing, kind of how to write well, and you've really taken the lead in your own development as a writer. These are my favorite writers to work with, are the ones who really take themselves seriously. And the more polished of a draft that you can give to your editor, the better experience that you will have with that editor. If you can give your editor a manuscript draft that is already polished, already you've invested time and energy, maybe some money through other resources into developing, that is going to give you the best results. That's going to let your editor do what they're actually really, really good at. And also remember to go into the right order. Developmental edit, line edit, copy edit, proofreading. If you're not ready for an editor yet, that's what this episode is about. So I'm specifically talking to you if you are not ready yet. Start writing and keep writing. Even if it's messy, just write and keep writing. Keep practicing. And I have a complicated relationship with the advice to you have to write every day, but I will say there is something to be said about consciously and intentionally stepping into that creative headspace regularly, whether that's every day, whether you have a few days a week, you're like, okay, this is when I'm going to write. Practice that. You are going to make the most headway, you're going to make the most progress, and you're going to build more confidence the more you step into your writing space. Because you can't edit a blank page. You can't do that. You have to start writing and you have to keep writing. Second, put yourself in proximity to people doing what you want to be doing. So get yourself into writing groups, whether you're in person or online. Create community that is creative, that it has to do with your writing. Listen to podcasts like this one. Put yourself in proximity to the people who do what you like to do, who do what you want to do. The more that you can involve yourself with these pockets of people and thinkers and creatives, the more you're going to see yourself as one of them and the easier it's going to be to show up for yourself that way. Also, talk about what you're writing with people you can trust. The more you talk about it, the more seriously you are taking yourself. The writers who come to me saying, I haven't told anyone I'm doing this, like, I'm not saying that you can't take yourself seriously if you're not just broadcasting it everywhere, but the more you can, the more comfortable you feel talking about what you're doing, that again, it's going to be easier to show up. You're going to have people who perhaps can hold you accountable. It's going to, again, kind of help you create more momentum. Also, be highly, highly mindful of what you are consuming. Social media can be great. It can be fun. I get book recommendations there. It's kind of an easy way to just zone out. It can also incite very real comparison failure, very real imposter syndrome. If you are following anyone, whether that's a writer, editor, influencer, agent, who makes you feel bad about yourself, mute them or unfollow them. Your consumption as a creative is so crucial, and it's something I don't see talked about enough. And I say this as someone who needs that reminder herself. Guarding your consumption is going to guard your energy. And I need that reminder just as much as you do. Be very mindful of what you are consuming. If you want to take yourself seriously as a writer, be so conscious of what it is that you are putting into your brain. And take yourself seriously as an author right now. Again, this is all leading to kind of that author mindset. The more you see yourself as a valuable player in publishing, as someone who can do this, even when you're still drafting, the faster you will finish and the better you will write. You get to take yourself seriously now. Give yourself permission now. There's a lot of gatekeeping in publishing, but you get to give yourself permission now. Also, invest in your education as a writer. And this can be an investment of your time, of your energy, of your money. There are YouTube videos, books, courses, podcast episodes, right? There's lots of free resources available to you alongside paid ones. My Memoir Method program stair-steps you through my developmental editing methodology to give you the tools that you need to walk yourself through that process. In the Memoir Method, phase 1 and phase 2 right now are all instant access. And I'm teaching one more bonus module all about essay collections next week. And phase 3, the final phase of this program, is running live in November. Part of taking yourself seriously as an author is spending your resources on learning, on improving, on refining. And when I say spending your resources, I don't mean just money. Because of the internet, there's so many ways to educate yourself. There's so many ways to find education, to find ways to learn, to find tools. And the more you take yourself seriously now, the better prepared you will be when you are ready to work with an editor. The more you will recognize that moment where you don't know what you don't know. When you've invested your time, your energy, your money into your writing, into taking yourself seriously, then you will know when it's time to invest in working one-on-one with an editor. And I want you to have an amazing experience with an editor. That largely depends on how you spend your time and your creative energy when you're not working with an editor. So the more developed you are as a writer, the better experience you're going to have with the editor that you find. Don't wait for perfection to work with an editor. So I'm saying all this, like, invest in your craft, work on your, don't send an editor your first draft like that. I don't think that's going to be a good use of your time or your money or your editor's time or expertise. So yes, you want to hand over a polished draft, and not like ready to polish, but one that you have clearly worked on and revised. Okay. You will get the most out of an editor when you do that. Also, don't get hung up on perfection. A good editor is going to elevate and amplify your writing. And so when you can give them a draft that best reflects where you're starting, that's where the editor can do their good work, their best work. And the editing process is also going to be less overwhelming when you are already familiar with the publishing industry, when you already treat yourself like an author, when you already know the type of editing that you need and the type of editor who will be a good fit for you. I do have a couple of open spots right now for one-on-one memoir development. If you are feeling like you and I would be a good fit together and you want my eyes, my expertise on your work, shoot me an email or book a free 30-minute call where we can talk and kind of figure out where you're at and what would be most helpful for you. I'll put the link to that in the show notes. Also, like I said, I have my Memoir Method program. This is a great resource for writers who are not quite yet ready to do that high-level work, but who want to get an education on developmental editing, go through a proven methodology for memoirs editing specifically. And I will put the link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Finding the right editor can be overwhelming, and sometimes you're not ready. And again, I don't want you to work with an editor if you're not ready for it. The best thing you can do is to take yourself seriously now, and that's going to reflect in the type of editor that you do find. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you next week. You've just listened to an episode of the Memoir Method Podcast. The Memoir Method Podcast is presented by Charlotte Writes. If you liked what you heard, the best way to support the show is to subscribe through your preferred podcast player. And if you're feeling especially inspired, I'd love it if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leaving a review really does help other readers and writers like yourself find the show. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on my website at charlottewrites.co or on Instagram at charlottejanewrites. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And remember that you have a story that matters.